What's up, fam? This is Matt Sam's back again with the Deep Ministry Project, and I pray that your new year is going well and that you have kicked off your Black History Month with a lot of jubilation as we celebrate everything that our elders and ancestors have sacrificed in order that we may have the blessings and the access that we do today. This next couple of sessions that I want to do, I want to start just a kind of mini series going through this month where not only do I look at our contributions that we have made here in building this nation in North America, but I want to look at it going further back, starting with biblical history or the biblical text. And I want to also look at what we have done throughout church history. And I will be touching on culture as well as contributions that we have made here in this country. So without further ado, I just want to share these little tidbits. I don't plan on these being very long. They're not going to be drawn out like my previous lessons or sessions. I want to keep these in under 20 minutes, just giving y'all some interesting facts, some things that you may not have known before, seen before, introduce you to some prominent figures, some adding some context to it, and helping you see the Bible, helping you see church history, helping you see things that you may have just overlooked in just casual reading. So without further ado, I just want to jump right in, and I'm going to give y'all our first character that we're going to be looking at. Now, these are not in chronological order. I may be pulling somebody, from the New Testament one session, the Old Testament the next, church history the next, talking about our history here in North America. But, I'm going to be all over the place, but there's a method to the madness. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to our first character. So with that being said, allow me at this time to share my screen. So this is, like I said, Black History, Christ, Culture, and Contributions by the Deep Project. Our character today, or our historical moment, will be coming from an individual named Phinehas. So we find him in several passages in the Old Testament. He is mentioned. He is mentioned in Exodus chapter 6, verse 25, Numbers 25, verses 10 through 13, First Chronicles chapter 9, verses 19 and 20. And also he's found in Psalm 106, verses 28 through 31. In extra biblical literature, or the apocryphal literature, we see him in the book of Maccabees. He is found also in the book of Syriac. So he is a well-known, prominent figure, and I'm going to be reading these passages. I'm going to give a little bit of commentary on them, but I really want to emphasize his name, and you will see why I constantly emphasize his name as we go to our next couple of slides. I will show you why this person is this person should be looked at as historical when we're talking about Black history. So beginning with Exodus chapter 6, 25, it says that Eleazar, Aaron's son, took his wife, one of the daughters of Putiel, and she bore him Phinehas. These are the heads of the fathers' houses of the Levites by the clans. So for those who are familiar with the biblical narrative, you know that Moses, he had two siblings. He had a sister named Miriam, and he had a brother named Aaron. Both of them are older. Phinehas is the grandson of Aaron. So this is Aaron's grandson. This is Moses's nephew. Going to Numbers chapter 25, verses 10 through 13, the scripture reads, "And the Lord said to Moses, Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the priest." So Phinehas is also in the line of the Levites. You know that the Levites were the only ones When we're talking about under the law prior to Christ, they were the only ones that were the Levitical priesthood. They served as priests. It says that Phinehas, this son of Eleazar, son of Aaron the priest, has turned back my wrath from the people of Israel, in that he was jealous with my jealousy among them. I want to stop right there real briefly. I want to go ahead and parse and nuance a few things. First, when we talk about God being jealous, this is not the same type of jealousy that a human being has. When we are jealous, it is because we covet what our neighbors or our brothers or sisters have, or we envy them. In fact, the word jealousy just recently, talking about the last 100, 200 years or so, began to have a bad rap. When we speak of God being a jealous God, this is a righteous jealousy. He is jealous over his people. What were the people of Israel doing? As you read throughout the Old Testament and you get into the New Testament authors, when they point back to what was going on prior to the time of Christ, you had the people of Israel engaging in a lot of idolatry. They were worshiping gods with a lowercase g, the gods of their neighbors. And this provoked God to anger, that his people will worship idols, idols made of stone, made of wood, idols in lowercase gods that could not hear their prayers, that could not deliver them from their enemies, that could not, be omnipresent or all knowing or, be all powerful. So this provoked God to a righteous jealousy. In fact, I will go as far as to say that, you have something that scholars, they like to call a anthropomorphism. That is when we give God a human attribute in order that we may understand him. But they also have another term, I believe is something dealing with passion, where we can attribute to God human passions. That way, from our finite state, our finite being, we could kind of get a grasp on how he's feeling. So this is not the sinful jealousy. I'll have to say this. But it says, so that I did not consume the people of Israel in my jealousy. Therefore say, behold, I give to him my covenant of peace. This is talking about Phinehas again. And it shall be to him and to his descendants after him the covenant of perpetual priesthood. So it is saying that Phinehas, his line is going to be a perpetual priesthood, meaning that his lineage is going to have longevity standing before the Lord, because he was jealous for his God and made atonement for the people of Israel. So what is the background? What is going on in Numbers chapter 25, verses 10 through 13? This is the setting of Balaam after he attempted to curse in disobedience the people of God. Remember that Balaam was hired by the king of Moab to curse the people of Israel. And every time Balaam would open his mouth, instead of a cursing coming out, it was a blessing. So God would make him bless the people instead of cursing them. Well, the king of Moab, to say the least, he was not pleased with this. But Balaam, wanting to gain from this situation, not wanting to lose this opportunity to make a large sum of money, he instead gave the king of Moab advice. And that advice was this: you cannot get me to curse the people of Israel, because every time I open my mouth, a blessing is going to come out. But this is what you do. You can get them to sin against their God, and God, being a just and holy God, is going to have to punish, discipline, and judge his people due to sin. And that is exactly what happened. Balaam gave him the plan, get them engaged in some immorality. and they son, I believe it was 500 prostitutes down there, and the army fell weak and intermingled with these women, had sexual relations with these women. And to just give y'all a little bit more background, Israel's neighbors, when they engaged in sexual activity, these immoral things that they did, it was 90% of the time it was in a worship context, meaning they did this to honor or to worship their lowercase gods, their idols. So this is idolatry as well as immorality that they have gotten the men of Israel, the people of Israel, enticed in. So God, just like Balaam said, God had to judge his people based on their sin. And God struck down thousands of men of the army. And Moses had to intervene by prayer in doing all of this chaos, all of this scene that's going on, this plague that has struck the camp, and you have thousands of people that is fallen. You have a individual, I forget his name, but in just defiance, he brings a Midianite woman, I believe, before the tent of meeting to engage in sexual, immoral, idolatrous activity. In Phinehas, burning with the anger of the Lord, took a spear and pierced the both of them and killed them. And it says from that point that the wrath of God was stayed, that God he took away the plague because this individual made atonement. He's also mentioned in First Chronicles chapter 9 verses 19 through 20. It says, beginning at verse number 19, Shalom, the son of Korah, the son of Ebasheph, son of Korah, and the kinsmen of his father's house, the Koranites, were in charge of the work of the service, keepers of the threshold of the tent, as their fathers had been in charge of the camp of the Lord, keepers of the entrance. In Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, was chief officer over them in time past. The Lord was with him. The Lord was with Phinehas. And then he's also mentioned in Psalm 106, verses 28 through 31, as the psalmist is looking back at Israel's history. He's brought up again. I'll read these couple of verses, but this is basically just giving the same commentary that I gave on Numbers chapter 25, verses 10 through 13, except that this commentary given in Psalm 106 is inspired, and I am not. But this is what it says. It says, then they yoked themselves to the Baal of Peor and ate sacrifices offered to the dead. Remember how I said when they engaged in these sexual idolatrous activities, you know, they were doing so, worshiping demons, worshiping lowercase gods. Well, this is what it's talking about. They ate sacrifices offered to the dead. They provoked the Lord to anger with their deeds, and a plague broke out among them. Verse number 30, it says, then Phinehas stood up and intervened, and the plague was stayed, and that was counted to him as righteousness from generation to generation. So when it says that it was counted to him as righteousness, this should bring back to your mind what God said about Abraham back in Genesis, when Abraham showed faith and when he believed in God, God counted his faith as righteousness. It was accounted to him as righteousness. This is the same phraseology that is used of Phinehas. So Phinehas, we're going to begin to break down his name. But before I do that, I want to give y'all just some context, some facts. When you're looking at the scriptures, the Old Testament and the New Testament, And I will emphasize, especially the Old Testament, names meant something. When someone was given a name, it wasn't because the name sounded good. It was not just pure nomenclature. The name had a meaning. It indicated a character trait in that individual. It was a name that was given to that individual that would tell you who they are. It gave them identity, or it prophesied on that person. So names had meaning in the Old Testament as well as in the New, but like I said, especially in the Old. I give y'all a couple of examples of names. We can look at the name of Eve, for example. Adam named his wife Eve because she was the mother of all living. We can go to a name like Jacob. Jacob means the heel grabber, the deceiver. When Rebecca was pregnant, she had twin boys, and Jacob was he held on to Esau's heel, thus he was called the heel grabber, and he fulfilled his name. His name was a revelation of his character. Jacob was a trickster. He was a deceiver. Esau, when he was crying out to Isaac after Isaac, his father, was deceived into blessing Jacob, he says, isn't his name rightly Jacob? He has basically defrauded me these 2 times. He's tricked me out of my blessings. After Esau, let me make mention that Esau sold his birthright, but Jacob dressed himself up in Esau's garment in order to get the blessing from his father Isaac. You also have, for example, Abraham, which means father of many nations. That name was given to Abraham prophetically because it was given to him when Abraham had no son. And, you know, God gave him that name in order to indicate what was going to become of his life, of his lineage. And just one more example, you have in 1 Samuel, you have an individual. His name is Nabal. Nabal means the fool. David had protected Nabal's men in the field. And the only thing David asks for in return, you know, for his army protecting not only his men, but his flocks. Hey, can we have something to eat, something to drink, wine, and, you know, give us a few sheep. That way we may eat. And Nabal responded foolishly. He, you know, I don't know David, and David is on the run. He's a fugitive. I ain't giving him nothing. And, you know, the servant, when it went to Nabal's wife, Abigail, had to remind Abigail, you know, Nabal is a fool. Rightly, his name is Nabal. Abigail had to tell David, hey, my husband is a fool. His name is Nabal. So Nabal lived up to his name. When we come to the name of Phinehas, all that to say, this names mean something. His name was a characteristic. It was a character trait. It revealed something about him that the Holy Spirit wanted us to know, because the scriptures are inspired by God. So let's see what the name Phinehas means and how it pertains to Black history. So Phinehas, it says the name most likely derives, it says that the name, which means southerner, okay, it is the pejorative as the definite article the. So his name means the southerner. So what does this mean? It was a term which was referred to the people south of ancient Egypt, such as the Nubians, and hence it implied those of dark skin. So it is saying his name Phinehas, he was given this name because he was dark skinned, he was black. Okay. And his name, it says his name meant the southerner, but there's more to add to it, which I will show y'all in the next two slides. But just talking about this for a moment. So when the nation of Israel left the land of Egypt, it says that a mixed multitude left with them out of the land. And then I also want y'all to realize that the nation of Israel was in the land of Egypt for over 400 years of captivity. It was not, well, let me say this. It is a high possibility that Phinehas was a person that was either half black, or I will go as far to say, you know, he was half black, meaning half Hebrew, half Nubian, or, you know, this man was 100% black. And I just leave that right there where it is. This is what the biblical name means. This is the name that he was given, and this is Aaron's grandson. This particular slide, this is coming from my Logos software. What I have pulled up, I did a word study on the name Phinehas. This is the Hebrew and Aramaic lexicon of the Old Testament. And over on this side, this is what it says. This name means the black people, Nubians. The name Phinehas, it is emphasizing blackness, emphasizing not just dark skin, but Nubian dark skin. So this man was, you know, an African. Let us keep going. An African as well as a Levite. This is from another lexicon. This is BDB, very prominent lexicon. It stands for brown drivers digs or something. I have to look it up. Matter of fact, let me do that right now. If y'all would just give me a moment, I want to make sure I have it right. I use this all the time, but I only call it the BDB. So let me pull this up that way I could give y'all the correct reference, and it would be soon as I'm trying to log into my Logos software. I can't find the icon on my phone. So, I mean, on my tablet. Let me see. One moment. BDB. Okay, enhanced brown driver Briggs Hebrew and English lexicon. So this is where this is the definition that they give for the name. And I just want y'all to see that it says that it is from an Egyptian origin, and his name means, wait for it, the Negro. And this is the grandson of Aaron. So it is emphasizing further that Phinehas was a dark-skinned black man. All right. And I can go through a bunch of lexicons, a bunch of Bible dictionaries, a bunch of biblical encyclopedias. The previous reference right here, this came from the Anchor Yale Bible Dictionary, talking about Phinehas. I gave y'all two lexicons. Like I said, I wanted to keep this short and sweet, just give y'all a few minutes of black history. So, you know, this is what you see on the screen, a accurate depiction of what Phinehas may have looked like. He was a Levite. And not only was he a Levite, you have a black man being one of the first high priests for the nation of Israel. So this is Matt Sam's Black History, Christ, Culture, and Contributions. This is the Deep Project, giving y'all a few moments of black history. And this is the part where I give y'all the peace sign. I'm out. Thank y'all for listening. If you like the content, please like, share, and subscribe.